Are you sick of Facebook deciding what you should read? If you've relied on Facebook as a way to follow us and stay across all the things women are talking about, it's now time for a change. Take back control over the Mamamia content you see by getting our daily email where you'll find our homepage direct in your inbox. Everything you need to know about our best articles, podcasts and videos. Join the sisterhood at mamamia.com.au/subscribe. Hi, I'm Mia Friedman and you're listening to No Filter. Jana Pittman used to be a hurdler, an Olympic hurdler. You might remember when she hurt her knee and had to have an operation just before her race at the 2004 Athens Olympics. And for reasons everyone has forgotten and which now seem utterly absurd, she was dubbed Drama Jana because the media was chasing her and she burst into tears. It sounds completely sensible to me. But the funny thing about Jana Pittman is that her career as a world champion athlete is perhaps the least interesting thing about her. Jana is 35 now and she's a single mum to 3 kids. How that happened is a fascinating story. And because she likes a challenge, as if that wasn't challenging enough, she's studying medicine. And the type of doctor she's studying to be has nothing to do with sport. Here's Jana Pittman. Before I read your book, here's what I knew about you. Bad knee.
Yep.
Hurdling. Athlete amazing. Something about drama with another athlete, but I couldn't remember that. And then something about in a relationship and then broke up and something like that. So that's all I knew. And I thought your book was just so fascinating. Like anyone, there's so much more to you than people would know from just sort of seeing you in the media. And now you're starting to be a doctor.
That's right.
You've got 3 little kids, which is a whole conversation that I'm looking forward to having. You're an ambassador for Save the Box.
That's right.
And you are retired from athletics? You're going to be a doctor?
Yes.
You're 34.
No time left for running.
And also, how's your pelvic floor after 3 kids?
Yes, exactly.
Highest point of your athletics career, what was it?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I have a few, unfortunately. So, well, probably a good thing. My first one will probably be the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne because it's a home crowd. So getting out there and, 90,000 people sort of screaming for Australia and bringing the gold home there was amazing.
You won.
Yeah, it was really incredible. Whereas from an actual athletic perspective, probably winning the World Champs in 2007, 9 months after having my son. So it was kind of those, no way she'll be able to get back. She'll never make the final. And then to come out and bring the gold home for Australia was just it was a bit of a miracle, I guess.
Are there many track and field athletes or many runners who come back after having babies?
I think it's becoming more common. So Paula Radcliffe and I were the sort of first 2 back then. So she came back and she won the London Marathon after about 10 months after her daughter, Isla. So I think we were sort of paving the way. And after that point, I got many phone calls and emails from different people saying, look, how can I do this? What type of training can I do? And in fact, our own Claire Tallant just recently had a baby and I think she walked at the World Champs, I don't know, about 10 weeks after the baby was born, something crazy like that. So it's certainly becoming more common.
Being a professional athlete, as you were, is that also about getting your identity back? I mean, I think most of us, when we have kids, those of us who have had kids, it's about getting your identity back. And I suppose as an athlete, it's about running and competing again.
Yeah, true. And I think certainly it's helped a lot of, athletes who have been able to come back, finish their career and have children and move into a different genre in life. And children certainly put into perspective what life's really about. And the ups and downs of parenthood is probably more important than certainly the hurdles we run over at the track. So for me, it really grew me as a person and probably made me a better athlete. I had both aspects because I obviously had one of the kids during my athletics career and then went on to run for another 10 years almost. Whereas my girls I've now had and I get to spend more time with them and really prioritise them. So I think it's a bit of both.
In terms of the experience of pregnancy that first time itself, having had such a disciplined life and your body is your instrument, how was the experience of being pregnant and having everything just go, whoa?
Well, yeah, I loved it because I got to eat Maltesers and run around and do. I love pregnancy. I'm very lucky though. I'm an easy pregnant woman.
I love pregnancy too.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
I
love it. I'm even considering surrogacy because I
used to say that.
I love pregnancy.
Yeah.
Not so much the birth, but we go down there.
There's drugs for that.
But no, I think you're right. It was different because I'd been so trim and lean, and then to sort of make sure that the baby came first, and you can't diet when you're pregnant and really look after yourself. But for me, I think it was a break.
Yeah.
I had him after I'd had a lot of the drama in athletics, and I just got married, and it was a very nice year, and the Commonwealth Games had just been over, so I got pregnant on my honeymoon straight after the Commonwealth Games.
So you were planning on having a baby?
Yeah, we were, yeah. But it was one of those questions. I think we were having a red wine, and I said to my husband at the time, we'd been married, I said 3 days, and I said, do you want to have a baby? Yeah, sure, boom, pregnant. I'm like, oh, okay then. So wasn't much consideration, I think, but it certainly was the right thing.
So I asked you about the highs. What about the lows? What about the lowest moment in your athletic career?
Look, my career's been a real roller coaster, and I get that it's only sport, but it was my life. So for me, I think probably losing the Olympics twice in a row with injury, that's hard because it's every 4 years. We're not like tennis and other sports that have multiple opportunities to sort of be on the centre stage. The Olympics comes every 4 years, and, I'm double world champion, couple of gold medals at the Commonwealths, but I really missed that one thing that I dreamed of most. So that was probably the low points because, you have to kind of pick yourself up after that, and that's tough.
That seems like such a messed up system that every 4 years you get a chance and then you don't get a chance for another 4 years.
We need to campaign for an every 2 year Olympics, but don't know if the countries could afford that.
That's right. Well, no one wants the Olympics anymore.
No, I know. It's a shame.
Isn't it interesting the way, we're old enough to remember when Sydney competed for the Olympics. It was like a big deal when we won it.
Yeah, the winner is Sydney.
Now it's like gift with purchase. If you take this one, you don't have to have another one for another 20 years.
That's so true.
We're talking about your body and the pressures on you physically, your body being your instrument, and also you having to be a certain weight. You talked about having bulimia for 10 years, you said. Was that during when you were running, when you were competing?
Do you know, it's a really good question. One of the hardest part about it was when the issues started happening with diet, I was at my best in sport. So there was that, it was almost like a negative reinforcement saying, well, you're getting away with it. Whereas if you've got an eating disorder, and if anyone who has experienced that knows, it's really hard to beat. And if there's things going wrong in life, you can start saying, well, I need to fix this problem because it's causing me relationship issues. It's causing me problems with my work and my mindset. For me, I was winning world titles while this was happening. So it kept reinforcing a positive way. Well, the skinnier you are, the faster you are, the better you are, that kind of scenario. So it took a long time till it had a lot of outfall in the rest of my life, and I really started noticing that it was affecting other things before I really started getting on top of it and trying to make a change.
What did it start affecting?
My relationship was probably the biggest one because when you're married, those who've been divorced, it's not a fun thing to go through. No one wants to.
Did your partner know that you were bulimic?
Not initially. So we were probably married.
It's very secretive, isn't it? I had it when I was younger too.
Yeah, we hide it. Yeah. And I don't mind talking about it.
Because it's so shameful.
It was, yeah. So, and I remember the day he found my stash of, chocolate and goodies in my drawer, and he's supposed to be gone away for the weekend with his mates.
Was he also your coach?
He was. So... Yeah, exactly. There was twofold there. So I'm sure as a husband, he would have been, okay, my wife is unwell and I need to help her. But as a coach, he's like, this is ridiculous. If you eat that, you're going to run like crap. So he wasn't pleased. Because
bulimia also, it's not as simple as food in, food out. It leaves you very drained, very weak. You don't metabolize minerals properly.
Yeah, exactly.
It can have a terrible effect on your health, and then ultimately it can really destroy your metabolism.
That's right. And look, I think my metabolism has definitely taken a hit with it. It's taken a number of years with healthy eating and changing my whole mindset and concept around food for that to change. But even your teeth get affected by it, but the biggest thing for me is mentally. It starts to control you rather than you controlling it, and that's when it needs to be addressed.
So quickly. It's so true. It starts and you think, I've got control of this.
Yeah.
I've found this great trick.
Yes, exactly.
Sucked in, everyone. I've got the magic bullet, and then it's just like, it's so quickly.
Yeah, I know.
It overtakes you.
Yeah.
How did you get out of it? Because 10 years is a long time.
Yeah, and look, I still have days where I really think about, oh God, I just want to eat that, and then I've eaten it and I feel guilty, and then it takes a lot of effort to not take the next step. Or to not eat the entire cupboard. And, I still occasionally fall. Like there'll be a day where I'm like, oh God, I've eaten everything. But instead of going to the bathroom, I'll go for a long walk, or I'll go and sit with the kids. And so change that priority.
Yeah, it's a hangover that lasts your whole life,
yes,
I think.
It is. And, there's a lot of people out there that have gotten over a lot of things like this. And I think it's just a matter of being aware that it can sneak up on you and being really aware of what those triggers are. So knowing that, for me, it was happiness, sadness, emotion. It was everything was a trigger. Yeah, feelings, because food is unfortunately not something we can get away from. We can't sort of say, I'm never going to drink again, but we can't give up food. So
I know. I always was almost envious, thinking that if it was alcohol or cigarettes or drugs, you could just say, okay, cold
never
turkey.
Again. Yeah, cold turkey.
But food is everywhere,
and
in every aspect of your life, and you can't live without it. So they also say that overeating and eating disorders are the addiction of women much more because you can be very high functioning.
That's correct.
Unlike being an alcoholic or a drug addict.
Yeah, and often you don't know. Like, you know, I was, as I said, winning the world titles, looking really lean and fit, and you would never even had any, because I never got really skinny. So I'm not, you know, I wasn't big or skinny. I was normal, completely normal weight, and very confident, and you'd never know because it was always behind
it's different
closed
to
doors.
anorexia. It's not bulimia is invisible.
Exactly.
So, you know, there are certain industries where a certain body shape is required, you know, ballet, modelling, sport.
Yeah.
Are eating disorders pretty rife? I mean, because they are in some of those industries.
I think they're
Not
rife.
everyone is naturally skinny or has a natural physique.
That's exactly
of a certain
right.
way.
Yeah, and look, in sport it's common, but I think it's common in the everyday woman. It's also common in powerful women, like women who are successful and strong. We need an outlet that can't be visible to anyone else. So a lot of my friends that are, you know, very high up in you know, CEOs of their companies and senior doctors and things also have the same problem. I think it's about giving ourselves a break and realising that if we do need an outlet, it's not a terribly bad one, food. We just need to make sure it doesn't take the next step to being an illness.
What came first, the partner, the romance, or the coaching?
Oh no, the romance, definitely. So
Right. How did you guys meet?
through athletics. So he was a 400 hurdler for Britain and I was a 400 hurdler for Australia, obviously. And we'd met previously on the circuit, just racing around, and he had a very, very gorgeous British accent and always dressed very immaculately. So I was like, oh, this is a bit of a special one here. And to be honest, he was the one guy that wasn't interested in me. So he was one of those things where, you know, well, you know yourself, when you've become a little bit well known and you had a little bit of success behind you, you become more of a trophy, I guess. So, you know, the guys probably aren't interested in you at all. They don't like you as a looking woman, but they're like, oh, you know, she's a bit famous. She might be a bit of a catch. So you stop being liked for the real you. I mean, this guy had no interest. So he wouldn't call me back. He wouldn't return my emails, nothing. So he was really making me hang on, which made me pine for this man. And then he won. He played me right up till the end. So yes, he did a good job. And then I fell for him.
You mentioned the circuit. Is it just like, I imagine it's just a hotbed of sexy times, is it? Like all these people at the peak of their physical, you know,
yes,
achievements, all around the same age, all, you know, not on holidays, but in these different locations away from home.
Look, it certainly could be. It's a lot tamer than people read. Like, you know, I have to say when you go to like schools and they always ask, do you really get condoms on your bed at the Olympics and that kind of thing? I know. But no, look, a lot of people are married because it is a full-time job. So I think there are certainly young athletes and the stories out there, and people do meet their husbands and wives on the circuit, and I'm sure there's
like
other
any
people
workplace.
Exactly that muck around and play around. But the majority of my friends were actually very serious, and they were there to win and compete for their country and make money when they were on the circuit. So it wasn't something that you wouldn't stay up the night before a big race, because that would just completely ruin your chances of any success the following day.
So were you guys competing at the same time when you started seeing each other?
Regularly. Pretty much every meet we were at the same competition. So we just became friends initially, and then but unfortunately that was over after about 7 years.
Well, 7 years is a good innings. 7 years is, I think, the average.
Is it? I'd like a lifelong if I could find it.
Well, I think that once upon a time when our life expectancy was much lower, I think
True.
7 years is a pretty good inning.
I'll take it.
Exactly. And you got your beautiful son out of it.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So when did he become your coach, and how did that change things?
Pretty quickly, actually. So we started actually seeing each other after the Athens Olympics, which was in, I think, August in 2004. And by December that year, he was coaching me. So
Was that a big decision?
No, it happened automatically. So Phil King was he's my favourite, you know, he's just an incredible coach that I had for on and off for almost 5 or 6 years. So he got me to win the World Championships, and after the Olympics, it hurt us both. I think we were both very tired emotionally and physically from that campaign, and he needed a break, and Chris was there saying, yep, I'll do the job. So we ended up going over to the UK where his home was, and we trained over there for 8 months just to sort of get away from all the hype back here, and then he just automatically became my coach.
What was the hype back here? Remind me of the kind of the context for what things were like after the Olympics.
Well, after I won the World Champs in 2003, so, we love athletics. We love Sally Pearson. We love our Kathy Freemans. We love our women female athletes in track and field. So winning the World Champs in 2003 pretty much put me at the forefront to win the Olympics in 2004. So along with Ian Thorpe, he and I did a lot of the campaigns leading into the Athens Olympics of the superstars of Australian sport.
No pressure.
No pressure. I didn't mind the pressure. So the whole campaign in 2004, I was undefeated. I hadn't lost a race, so it was looking really good. So we were like, yeah, this is the year. We're going to really, bring home the gold for Australia. And then when I smashed my knee right before the Olympics, it was about 3.5 weeks out.
Did you actually smash it?
Well,
on a hurdle?
No, well, I was doing some drills, and it just popped. So basically, there's a bit of cartilage in the knee, and it ripped in half, basically.
Was it your ACL?
No, thank goodness. No, it was my meniscus on the lateral side. Yeah. So
yeah. My son did that, but he's not a hurdler, and he had knee surgery, and it didn't really work.
Oh, didn't it? Well, actually, my mum just had knee surgeries and didn't work either, so she's having another one. But I was very lucky it did work. So despite not being full fitness, I still made the Olympic Games, made the final, but I only came 5th in the end, which for us was really hard when we were really hoping that we were going to bring the gold home. So it was a very hard, quick transition from going from the best to the worst in kind of, well, not the worst, 5th's not the worst, but when you're going for gold.
Tough crowd.
I'm a tough crowd on myself. Yeah, no, but so I think I disappointed a lot of people, and I learned a really interesting lesson that I can't take back, but I would like to, during that period that my manager was Dave Flaskus, who was also Ian Thorpe's manager, but he was so consumed with what was happening with Thorpe, because obviously, he's the real deal. So I didn't have any advice on how to deal with the media. I was only 20. I was like, wow, this is amazing. There's all these microphones in your face. And up until that point, the media had been so beautiful with me, and the public reception of me had been amazing. So I just gave them whatever they wanted. If they wanted an interview, I said yes. If they wanted a story, I said yes, because I looked at it as a way of showing that even if your chips are down, if you fight and you get, a bit of luck on your side, you might still come through fighting. So, and I hoped after the operation I'd still win the Olympics, and I thought it would be a great story to us, Aussie battlers back home, not to give up.
I remember watching, it was, those human interest stories are the most interesting part of the Olympics for me. Yeah. And I remember that footage of you on the crutches. Yeah,
exactly.
And it was like, how on earth could you couldn't even walk, let alone how were you going to hurdle? So it was the whole country was into the narrative. Yeah.
And it was just too much. So maybe what would have been good was to do half of that or even a quarter of that, and then let the performance speak for itself. But I didn't know that. I was young. I was silly.
What happened, Jana? Because I genuinely don't remember. I've got no recollection. I've got in my mind you on crutches. I'm sure you know every single moment of it. Yeah. Because you still must have awful flashbacks.
Yeah, I do.
But what happened? Because I don't remember you doing anything wrong.
I just did too much media, and I think people were a little bit sick of it. So we're always going to have lovers and haters in the world. I understand that. But
what does too much media mean? Like they said, how's your knee? And you said, it hurts. I don't know. What happened?
I don't know. I'd let them come to training and watch the rehab. I know, actually, one thing that was really important was I was sponsored by Channel 9, and the rights to the Olympics were Channel 7. So whenever I did a story with 9, 7 had to run one as a sort of the counter the thing. So I think there was just literally too much. There was like a running saga in the newspapers and front page this and that. And I think the average Joe Blow doesn't want to see that. We just want to see, okay, that's an interesting story. That's enough. Next.
Was it a big distraction for you? That media attention?
No, it didn't distract me at all, because we only did 3 days of media. We just did full sort of campaigns where they allowed them to come to training and things. So I didn't bother me at all. But it was more they continued the story in my absence when I wasn't there.
Do you think that it was just a different time? Because now when I think about that, like, you would be doing Facebook Lives. There would be, that sounds almost quaint, that there was a story every day on Channel 9. Like now people would be wanting update, hourly tweets and there would be that understanding. But back in 2004,
it wasn't like that.
The internet was barely around.
That's
so
right.
I suppose it did feel saturated compared to what else was out there.
It's a great word, saturated. I saturated the market.
And so then my heart always breaks for athletes where you finish the race, and if it didn't go the way you wanted, you have to run the gauntlet of having a chat with the media in literally the seconds after. Tell me about what that's like. Yeah,
that's hard, but I have to be honest, I've always thought that was quite good. Like, as in, I'm usually quite good at holding that part together. And plus the girl that won was the Olympic champion in her home country, very similar, like a Kathy Freeman story. So it was a pretty, if it's not me, it was a pretty good story to happen. So I thought I did that really well, but the other mistake that I made was once I got through that room, you got to go back to the call room, and no one's there other than you and your coach, no media, no one's allowed there at all, and that's when you're allowed to let it out. You're allowed to let it cry. We're women. We're allowed to let all that emotion out, all that adrenaline and out of your system. And there was a camera over the fence that watched that. So that was hard because then it looked like, you'd done this really good job of this call of the post-race after media section and gone, oh, congratulations and whatever. And then they capture the real rawness of it.
But why didn't that make people more sympathetic? Like, you're telling me about that. That makes me would want to go back to 2004 and just give you a hug.
I don't know, Dale, you tell me.
So were people like say, what, she's a sore loser because she cried?
Basically. So, but that's, I get it. Like I do get it now, and I look back on it and I just can't. There's always, as I said, there's always going to be people that feel one way or the other. And I think the biggest thing that's come out for me is, and especially now that I'm in medicine and seeing what life's really about, is that it is just sport. And I think some people look at it and they think, how can you be so disappointed over something that's just sport? You're not dying, you've got fit legs, you made the Olympics anyway. So, wake up, smell the roses and move on.
Is it a bubble, being a professional athlete?
Oh, definitely. You do live inside a very insulated bubble.
How long did you live in there for?
I still have my foot in the door, so I'm trying to pull the bubble with me, I think. But probably about 10 years. So
from when you were...
probably from when I was about 14 when I first qualified for my first Olympics. So I didn't go initially,
wow.
But sort of knowing that was going to be
Sorry,
the future.
you qualified for your first Olympics at 14?
I might have been just 15 actually, but
why
very
didn't you
early. Because it was 4 years out. So I qualified at a very junior race, at a schoolgirls national championships. I ran a B qualifier for the relay, and then the following year I ran the A qualifier. So and then the Olympics were the year after that. So it was just one of those little momentum scenarios. But yeah.
They are very formative years,
They
of
are.
14 to 24,
Yeah.
to be in a bubble. Looking back now, what did you kind of miss out on? Like, what bits of your development did you sort of miss out on?
Yeah. I would have to consider that. A bit of social interaction probably would be the big one, because you're insulated. As I said, we're very much kept inside. I don't do a lot, didn't go out very much, didn't do... so making decisions for myself was one of those things I wasn't very good at, because I was micromanaged by a lot of my team. And just being able to understand. But I think I'm like that anyway. In general, I have a bit of I can never tell if someone's being nice or negative. I can't tell if I went. So, for example, you could take me down a garden path, and I'd blurt out all because I'm very honest, my opinions and secrets, and then it could be misconstrued in a certain way. And I haven't got a really good ability of being able to pick someone's motive behind something. So
you don't have a filter.
There you go. Thank you. That's my word.
We've got so much in common.
Yeah, I don't have an off switch.
No.
So, and I'd love one.
I feel you.
I really want one.
I really feel you. Me too. Me too. Having a coach and having this whole mechanism around you, I suppose, this whole ecosystem around you, with you at its focus as the star performer. That must be really weird. And I can't imagine that helps you to make good relationship decisions about choosing people. Is that hard?
I think it just makes me second guess everything. Even now at 35, I'm, not 35 next week, but soon, I don't make those decisions. I always have to ask and consult someone on those decisions. And I think that frustrates other people as well, because I can't just automatically make, a big life decision about a husband or a partner or things like that. They always have to be vetted through my parents still.
Survey says,
yeah. So, so I think definitely it's something we could really work with our young athletes on, is giving them that confidence to be an individual outside of their team. And that's something. It's a work in progress, I think, for myself still.
So you and your partner, you got married. He was your coach. You got pregnant, had the baby. Was that thing about him being your coach, so kind of like your boss, but also your partner, weird?
Absolutely.
Challenging?
I think anyone who works with their husband is yeah, exactly. It's not an easy thing to do. And it depends on your personality. So it was funny that writing my book was really cathartic, but it also made me realise some things about my husband, because obviously we're divorced now, and it was a very hard and sad divorce for both of us. And I think what I wasn't aware of was that whilst he was coaching me, he was also going through his own retirement. And that is something I didn't really consider until I read the book, that he had a lot of down moments and things he had to cope with that affected our relationship, and then my own issues also affected it. But somehow we stopped our teamwork. So we were a great team initially, and then all of a sudden we got off the train and we were working in different directions, and it was really difficult. And I think one of the things was that he was going through that retirement, and it's not till I go through my own and wrote my book that I acknowledged that. And
When did you retire?
I don't know, 6 months. I haven't officially retired, but in the last 12 months.
Really, that recently?
Yes, I haven't. I have never announced it.
How does an athlete retire? Like, what's the process?
I guess you usually you would stand up and say, I'm done, and then the media would do, you're finished and, retired. But mine just kind of transitioned out of – so bobsled was my last international competition in 2014.
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, the crazy sliding sport. So that was
Was that good fun?
Amazing. Like, it was the best thing I've ever done sports-wise. So when you say highlights, I should say that bobsled was the best sports moment I've ever had. Like, being involved in a team with another athlete and just the crazy hype of that sport was unreal.
What led you to do that? Is it that you couldn't hurdle anymore and you needed something different? And,
exactly.
And so what happens? Is there like a sports fair where you go and you say, here are my skills. Should I become a javelin thrower?
Yes. Yeah. I wish, you have that at school, don't they? You do that beep test and everything. They say, this is what you should do. I was supposed to be a volleyballer, apparently.
So, but did you literally go, okay, well, here are all the sports.
I did.
What do my skills, and who is there? Did you have like a coach?
No.
Sort of.
So I tried 3 sports. I looked at boxing, I looked at rowing, and I looked at bobsled. They were the 3 sports that I looked at as an option.
Why those 3?
Exactly as you said, physically, I'm built like that. So if you think of Kim Crow, who's our Olympic champion in rowing, so she was a 400 hurdler. So I kind of looked at sports that started in my event and then what transitioned through. And boxing was a natural thing that I just love the sport. We used
really?
I love it. But then my mum said, you're going to be a doctor one day and you're going to have brain damage, and then I'm never going to come and watch you fight. And I'm like, what if I'm in the Olympic final? Nope.
And also broken face. Yeah. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, but I'm not an oil painting anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But that was her worry.
You really thought about boxing?
I did. I really love it.
Wow.
I love it. I love Costa Zoo, and I trained with him when I was younger, and it was just such an amazing experience to be sort of involved with, and watching his tenacity in training. It was very inspiring.
And then bobsledding was pretty out of left field.
Yes, but the girl who was the women's pilot was actually again an ex-400 hurdler. So she approached me. I saw I'd watched her at the previous 2 Winter Olympics and thought, wow, that's so amazing. And so when she called me, actually, so I think she knew I was looking at other sports, and she just put a call in and said, do you want to do it? And I was like, yes, actually. And at the time, bizarrely, I was actually pregnant, and so I had to say no to her initially. But then I lost the baby, and the first, when you go through that, you think, I want to do something right now. So you pick up the phone, I'm like, absolutely. I'm coming.
So true. It's my future doesn't look like what I thought it was going to look like. I've got to quickly make a different future.
That's right. Take a big U-turn and go back. Yeah. So I was on a plane 3 weeks later and doing bobsled.
Wow.
So yeah, it was great.
Why didn't you just do medicine? Then, if you've always known you wanted to be a doctor.
Another good question. I didn't think I was clever enough, to be honest. So I did well at school, like solid at school, and then came out of and then became an athlete for 10 years. And I thought I'd lost that academic ability. Again, I don't mind saying my ex-husband didn't think I was very clever. So I would study a lot, and he would say, the only reason you get good marks is because you study heaps. And so I thought, I'm never going to get into medicine. So I did midwifery initially.
Glad he's an ex.
Nah, he had a point at sometimes. I spent too much time studying and not enough time looking after him.
No, but that's not supportive. Oh my God, listen to what you just said.
No, he didn't. I didn't prioritise him, and I know it. Anyway, moving forward. Leave that one in the dark. So, so I did midwifery for 2 years or 18 months, and just loved being in the theatre rooms, and it really, really reignited that flame for medicine and delivering babies and women's health and things like that. So I sat that exam to get in, and I failed the first one, which was fun. But I didn't give up, and I sat it a second time, got really good marks, and now I'm in medical school. So
how's that going?
Amazing. I absolutely love it. It's totally changed my world and moved me into an area where I'm really confident. It doesn't matter what you look like or what you do or where you come from. It's about your merit and how good a judgment you are, and how empathetic you are with your patients, and how good a mind you have for medicine. So, what part of medicine do you think you'll go into, or haven't you decided? 100% committed to women's health. So I want to be a gynecologist. So delivering babies, and I love fertility. So I do a lot of work already now in uterus transplants. I don't even know if you believe that's real, but we can.
I've heard about those.
It's amazing new science. And I also am very interested in women's gynecological cancers, so ovarian and uterine cancers and things like that.
Your own fertility, you got pregnant very easily on your honeymoon the first time, and then you had a miscarriage.
Yes, another one.
And what happened after that in the journey of Jana Pittman's womb?
Yeah, my womb. It's not up for womb transplant. It's not good enough. But yeah, so I've always loved kids. Like I just really wanted 5, 6, 7 kids would have been my ideal. But yeah, I lost one with my ex-husband, unfortunately, and then I met a beautiful man, like an absolute divine man, and it was too close to my divorce, and I wasn't ready. And we by mistake had a whoopsie pregnancy, but we came to the conclusion that we're good people. He's a great man. We'll go along with the pregnancy, and unfortunately we lost that one as well. And then we lost another one a couple of months after that.
Oh, babe.
So
3 in a row.
Yeah, it was pretty rough going.
How did you feel? I mean, I know the answer, but like, how did you process that? Because again, having had control over this body of yours.
Yeah, I didn't, was the truth. I decided I didn't want to have kids anymore. I put it out of my mind, separated from this lovely guy, and moved to Sydney, got into medical school, and never thought about it again.
Thought that you were done.
Yeah, so cried about it for like maybe 5 minutes. That was it, literally, which is bizarre when I'm Jana, the drama queen. You think I would have processed it more, but I literally just let it go and didn't even couldn't open that can. It was too painful. So I threw myself into medical school and fertility for other people, and then literally halfway through a bobsled season, I know this is really random, I had this like yearning in my womb for more babies, and I thought I need to find out why. So I started getting some fertility, advice of what was going wrong. And what was great about this though is it again really inspired my future passion, because I understand what it's like to really want something and not be able to achieve it at the time. So my AMH was dropping, which is your levels of your oocytes in a woman's body. So I knew that I was going down into early menopause, which is what we thought at the time. So I thought, okay.
How old were you?
I was 30 at this stage.
Wow.
So I was thinking this is on the way out. And I just thought, what do I do? Do I try and find a man really quickly like some of my friends do? And I know a lot of women out there will really feel this, but we want the baby so much and the man's not there. So you think, okay, you meet the first guy and see whether he's husband material, and it didn't work out that way. So in the end, I can say I made the brave decision to try and have a baby on my own, and that's sort of where my 2 girls came from.
Did you ever find out what was responsible for the miscarriages that you had?
Bad luck. It was really just bad luck, and I think that's what a lot of women, we really get hard on ourselves when we lose a baby, but we don't realise that it happens to so many of us, and it's not until we. Again, this is what I'm passionate about, is talking about women's health, is being able to openly say I lost 3 babies and that really hurt and it's hard, and I didn't process it until later, because a lot of women we just don't feel like we can stand up. We don't even tell people we're pregnant till we're 12 weeks, and therefore when we do lose a baby prior to that, we're not able to share that emotion and that time with others, and that's it's a time we really need the support.
I think also that now pregnancy tests have improved to the point where you can find out that you're pregnant like almost before the embryo's implanted, like
so
literally he climbs off you and you can go and do a test. And so psychologically, I think we've got a whole generation of women who are having to process the idea of having a miscarriage when our mothers and our grandmothers would have just had a late period.
Exactly. So true.
And it can be really emotional. And then people say, oh, look, it's so common. I feel guilty that I'm so upset. I was only 6 weeks or I was only 10 weeks.
Yep.
And other people have it worse. But it can just be gut-wrenching.
It is.
And it's no less gut-wrenching when you have a child.
That's right. Exactly.
Some people go, oh, at least you've got one.
Yeah, exactly. And all my research, I'm doing a lot of research into infertility in gynae cancer. And, women actually really struggle with that guilt once they've had to have a hysterectomy after cancer if they've got kids, but they wanted more. And it's really hard because, it's a natural instinct to want children. And if you want more, then it's always going to hurt.
I think there's also that idea that medicine knows the answer to everything. So when someone can't give you an answer, you're just like, what do you mean you can't tell me why it happened? And what do you mean you can't tell me that it won't happen again?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's hard not to blame yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. And we're women. That's what we do best.
That's what we do. So you decided to go the donor route. How did you get sperm? Because it's very difficult to get donor sperm.
Yeah, I went on a waiting list.
In Australia?
Yes, an Australian through IVF Australia. So actually I'm friends with about 15 women now that have all gone down this route. We've all sort of become friends through the process, and we all do similar things. So we go on a waiting list. When you get to the top, at the time I actually had a known donor. So I was actually dating a nice guy in America, but we were not in that stage of life. Like it was literally he was offering through a contract his sperm.
Yeah.
And through counselling I realised that was a really challenging option because it's not fair on him either that the child would be in Australia and I never fully intended to go overseas, and then he would miss out on that opportunity. So through the counselling, we realised it was a better process to go through an unknown donor, and I was just lucky that my name came to the top of the list after 3 or so months. And then
wow, that's soon. I thought it was
quick.
years that you had to be on the list.
No. So, I mean, it depends whether you want an Australian or an American, like a de-identified American donor. I chose an Australian just simply because I like the idea of the children when they get to 18 being able to trace their genetics background.
So now you can legally, when the child is 18, they get the details? So my understanding is that ever since that legislation came into being, based on the idea that every child has the right to know their father, that was how many years ago? I don't know.
I don't know either, to be honest.
And the number of sperm donors
have declined,
plummeted, because lots of people were fine, happy to have their seed out there, whatever. But the idea of there being a knock on the door in 18 years, people were like, no, not interested. So the pool of sperm, it's a lovely mental picture. The pool of sperm donors is much, 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 much smaller.
That's right.
And then is it also true that they have to be careful that they can't overuse any one person? How do they make sure that doesn't happen? Like the 15 people that you know, are all your children siblings?
No. I don't know who the parents are, but I know my daughters have 3, we call them dibblings, donor siblings, somewhere in Australia. So, but it's limited.
Will they get their details when they're 18 as well?
They do. Yep. So, and we're on a database now that they can already get them if the other families choose to share the details. But it's limited to 5 families, including their own. So if there's a lovely man out there that wants to donate, if he's got his own kids, then he can have 4 other families to have that. Because obviously it's not just single women. There's a lot of women out there who's unfortunately their partners have had vasectomies when they were younger, or they've had testicular cancer or something that they can't themselves have children. So they have to turn to the donor route.
Do they spread the sperm around Australia for each donor so that there's less likely of...
I don't know.
Because obviously the danger that they don't want is 2 people meeting, falling in love and discovering that they are half-siblings.
Well, I think considering that there's only 4 other families and my kids will always know their donor. So if they met someone and they were a donor as well, I think the natural conversation would be like, I'm a donor, you're a donor, let's get checked.
Very important to get that, put that on your Tinder profile. Very important.
Yeah, I think the chances of that are pretty low.
Yeah. So you got the donor sperm and did it work straight away?
No, I had a failed cycle. So
you had to do IVF?
I did. Obviously.
You couldn't do turkey baster?
No, because my fertility was too low at this stage. So we did an IVF cycle. I only got 1. I got 2 eggs the first time. They didn't work. And then I had to do a full cycle again. And anyone who's done IVF know that's not fun, sticking the needles in you and then having an operation to remove your little eggs or your little oocytes. And then I got 1 and it was a B-grade embryo. And they're like, oh, do we even transfer it? It may not do anything. And that's my daughter, Emily.
Oh.
She worked. She's my little B-grade embryo. Yeah, exactly. And then 12 months later, I started getting clucky again, and I thought, no.
Stop, because I want to get to that in 1 second. How old was your son when you had Emily?
8.
So it's you and him?
Yep, just him and I all the way.
And you obviously spoke about it with him?
I did. He helped me with my injections, actually.
Oh, God, I love him.
He'd actually known about one of the pregnancies and was equally as sad when I'd lost it, because I got to about 10 weeks with one of them, and and he was just very upset that Mummy's baby wasn't there anymore. So he was very keen to have a little brother or sister.
My son was 8 when his sister was born. He was not that
He was not happy?
Still isn't.
Really?
No. Does your son still see his dad?
No, unfortunately.
So his dad's in the UK?
No, he's here in Australia.
Oh,
but
he's in Australia.
Unfortunately, they don't have any contact. But not at the moment anyway. So he was very keen to have someone to have as his own, as well as Mum.
To make a bigger family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And absolutely, he has times where he and his sister, I don't know how, but he becomes the 2-year-old. They fight more than I've ever seen any other kids
fight. Is Emily
fight.
2?
Yes.
So how was the experience of being pregnant as a single mum?
It was hard initially. So definitely Emily's pregnancy was harder because you looked at all the married couples going together for counselling and for, not counselling, what do you call it, the appointments when you go for antenatal appointments. Thank you. Prenatal appointments. So all your work you have together, you go on your own or you go with your mum. So, and then my biggest worry was the actual labour. So going into labour and then being on your own in the birth suites.
Who was your birth partner?
My mum and my best friend. But I was really worried that they're like afterwards when you know how you're hanging in the maternity ward and you've had your baby and there's all these people cooing over the baby. You don't notice because you're so into your baby that I didn't even notice I was on my own. In fact, it was quite nice because I was in the bed by myself with my baby and I didn't have anyone else trying to get in. And
it's a love affair for 2 people, that one.
I agree.
I completely agree. It's like, what? Who, what? Who, whatever.
So
And
so
your
I didn't
son, I
notice.
imagine, was around.
He came heaps, and he stayed
Yeah.
one night, which was really nice. So, it became just our little family. And then when my second daughter, Jemima, came along, I didn't even notice that time. So it was. To be honest with you, for any women out there, it's probably easier on your own than it is with a husband, because you don't have to satisfy him as well. Like, you don't have to look after his needs and make sure he's feeling loved enough because there's a new baby in the house. And it was just me and my little cocoon with my kids.
How old was Emily when you decided to go again?
9 months. So
Jana,
no.
you must have good pregnancies, clearly.
Yeah, my pregnancies are very easy.
Yeah.
Very, very easy.
And you must recover well from your birth.
Yeah.
Or you did from her.
I did.
Why the rush?
Because I know I want to be a surgeon. I know I'm not going to be around that much for at least 4 or 5 years. So there's going to be a period in their life where mummy's absent, and I didn't want my daughter to be alone. So I really noticed that my son was lonely on his own, and I wanted to make sure she always had a little buddy to be with. So, and it's only going to be 4 years when I'm a registrar, so in my really, really hard years, and then I can.
What are the hours like when
Crazy
you're a
hours.
registrar?
Crazy.
Stra.
Don't even want to go there. I don't want to put them in my head now.
Just tell me. I want to
Well,
know.
you're on night duty a lot. You're away a lot. You're at the beck and call of your seniors. So women go into labour all hours of the night, and you're working a lot of weekends. You're out. There could be times.
Sounds like starting your own business.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. So I think I just wanted to make sure she had a little buddy. And let's be honest, if something happened to me, I'm working in gynae cancers. I see these women, unfortunately, getting sick and passing away all the time. I wanted to make sure my family had more than just Emily and Cora. I wanted them to have a little unit that they can grow together and always have each other for life.
What happens in that respect in terms of, obviously, you become very aware of your own mortality once you have children.
You do.
With a dad not in the picture for any of the kids, what's the plan? Do you ever lie awake and think about that? You must.
No, yes, I did, and then I sorted it. So basically, when I have godparents, they're real godparents. They're not, look, stand on the stage and here's your godparent. No, we sat down with them. We wrote a will. I have a very, very in-depth will. I got life insurance, and I made sure that they're completely set up for life, so that the family. I have 2 options, actually 3 options, who are very aware that if something happens to me, they get the kids and they get them for life. So
Are these friends, relatives?
2 of them, 2 of them are relatives, and one of them is my best friend. So she
And they all put their hand up and said,
they did.
I'm
They
up
did.
for this.
They did. So I'm very lucky, because I'm assuming not everyone would have that, but they're very, very aware that this is a real prospect if something happened.
How old are the little girls now?
2 and 9 months.
Jana,
They're little puppies,
my God. So you've got 2 under 2 essentially.
basically. Yeah.
How's that going?
I love it. I love them. I took a year out of medical school, so I'm a slow, old medical student. I took a year to be home with them and do a lot of research and a lot of this gynae campaign stuff.
Yeah.
And I love babies. I'd have more if I had a husband,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I don't know. I love that little bubble. I know we can talk about it here. It's sort of that we do. I'm a co-sleeping, breastfeeding. I'm a full hippie mum.
Are you breastfeeding both of them at once?
Oh, no, not Emily rejected me.
Did
I'm
she?
devastated. Yeah, my biggest one decided when I was pregnant she was not, she's not going there.
Sometimes they say the milk changes or something because she was still little, right? She was
but
only
she
one.
wasn't I had really bad milk supply with her. So
Yeah.
I think she just liked the bottle. It was one of
Yeah.
those, I know
It's
this
easier.
again. Yeah. And she's like, it comes out fast, Mum. And
It's more reliable.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's a whole nother journey that I'm really passionate about is women's breastfeeding, because it was so hard with her. And then it's now been a much better journey because I'm more informed with my daughter Jemima, because I'm pretty determined to feed her for, a year and a half or so.
Every
So-
kid's different though.
Yeah, I know.
Don't you find? Like I all 3 of my kids had very different. I can't believe I'm going to use the term breastfeeding journeys.
So,
They all had very different
Yeah.
breastfeeding journeys, but every kid's different in every
Yeah.
way. Their personality,
Yep.
everything. Their
Exactly.
birth, labour, pregnancy.
yeah. And Miami just happy sucks. She's so, even if there's nothing there, she's my new baby.
And
So-
how's your son going?
Yeah, he's going really well. So he's about to go to high school, which is crazy. So he's one more year and he's in high school, and he's just almost a teenager, and I just can't believe he was once a baby.
How does the family unit work now? And who's your support?
Yeah, I live across the road from my mum. So, yeah, exactly. So people are like, oh, God, you live across the road from mum? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I survive.
I think that's outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so she helps an enormous amount. So we've just come back from Sweden 2 weeks ago. We were away for almost 2 months.
Why
so
Sweden?
That's where we were actually watching uterus transplants. So I went over and watched the
Sounds
team
like
over
a fun
there.
holiday for all the family.
We still had fun stuff. We went to Stockholm and went to the museums, and we had a lot of of good family time too. But I was over there doing research stuff. But it was an incredible experience, and Mum came with me, so she's pretty much my.
Is your dad still around?
He is, yes, and he's just he's a grumpy old man that likes to have his space, so he really quite doesn't mind when Mum goes off and travels around the world with me. And she started forever because Core's 10, so he's been with me. I've been a single mum now for almost 6 years, and Mum's come with me when I was competing, and she's been my sidekick for a long time.
Are you dating?
No, I'm not. I tell you, I'm good at medicine. I'm good at sport, and I'm pretty good at being a mum. Crap at being in a relationship.
Why?
Don't know.
I think you need to have therapy to sort that out.
Thank you. You
because you deserve.
Recommend someone.
You deserve. Like everyone deserves a partner.
Yeah,
even if they're not your forever person, it would be lovely to fall in love. Would you not like that?
I'd 100% like it. But there's a few things, let's be honest. I have 3 children, so I have to find someone who'd like to have kids, as in look after and be around my kids. They have to be able to be with someone successful and who's not around a lot and who really prioritises the kids and her job, and who's happy to put up with someone who's a little bit quirky, because I'm not exactly normal. So
I think we're writing your Bumble profile right here on this podcast.
Yeah,
I think that sounds like it could be. There is someone out there that could be right. But what you're saying is that it's not your focus at the moment.
It's not
You've
my
got
focus.
Your dance card is pretty full.
It's pretty full, yeah. As Mum keeps reminding me too, every time I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go on like eHarmony or on Tinder and find it. And she's like, no, Jana, you're full. I'm like, okay, thanks, Mum. When are you going to fit a man in? I'm like, no.
And it struck me as amusing when I said about retiring, and you looked a bit startled.
Did I?
Yeah. That's still obviously something. What does the Olympic dream never die?
I think it's just, no, probably not. I think once Tokyo has gone and passed, which is the next Olympics in 2020, I think then I'll be like, nah, I'm now really old and I really can't do it. Whereas I think in the back of your mind as an athlete, when you haven't finished your goal, so my goal was always to win a medal at the Olympic Games, I think you always think, well, can I do it one more time?
Is it a type of grief, or it's just kind of unresolved?
I think it's unresolved. I think it would be grief if I didn't have medicine and I didn't have my kids. But there is still a pain associated, just because it's part of your life. It's like losing a husband. It's honestly like going through a divorce. That's the best way I can make people understand. But yeah.
Well, it's been so fantastic to meet you. Tell me about Save the Box.
Okay, so Save the Box is a campaign that I'm very proud to be an ambassador for. It's part of the RANZCOG, the Australian New Zealand Gynae Oncology Group, and they're basically about raising the profile and money towards clinical trials for gynae cancers. So about 7,000 women will have a gynae cancer diagnosis this year, over 6,000 women, and we're really trying to change that platform, because without the money in the clinical to go towards the clinical trials, we're not going to be able to find a cure. And apart from Pap smears, which no one's up to date with, by the way, we need to get people up on there.
I have one every year.
Really?
Yeah.
You've had obviously dysplasia in the past.
Yes, I have. I've had
Same
dysplasia as you have. So I had when I was much younger. I think I was 18 or 17 or something really young like that. Yeah. And I've just got in the habit of.
Good on you. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, there are going to be changes to the guidelines coming up in early next year. But the big thing is that we as women need to talk to each other and make sure we are up to date with our Pap smears. But we also need to raise money and awareness for other gynae cancers that don't have a test. So that we think, we've had our Pap smear, that's checked us for endometrial and for ovarian cancers, and it just doesn't. And without the money going towards these trials, so we have like 700 practitioners around Australia and nurses and people involved as a collaborative team trying to really make this statistic change. So we can't have women dying, we can't have women even diagnosed, and the saddest and hardest part about gynae cancers is that they're often so silent. So they're not like something, you cough and you feel sick. These women are presenting with a little bit of pelvic pain or a bit of pain during sex or a little bit of bleeding, and it's already a late stage cancer, and we need to change that.
Tell me about, if someone's listening to this now and they might be having some symptoms, they might have just had something they've barely noticed or they've put out of their mind. What are some of the symptoms or some of the groups of symptoms that are an indication that you should go and talk to your doctor, and what tests should you ask for?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you have any worry, we're pretty good intuitively. So if you have anything that you think is slightly different, if it's a little bit painful when you're having sex, if you're having heavy,
what kind of pain?
Just like, for example, this is very graphic, but if you're having pain after sex, so then if you're having like an aching or a dull feeling after sex, or if you're having penetrative pain, so that the actual, act itself hurts. If you're having bleeding after pain or any discharge that's unusual, it's just better to go and get it checked. It's probably nothing. The chances are it's nothing, but you just don't want to miss it because we're so embarrassed and not going to talk to the doctor. You might have like a period-like pain that's lasting too long that's not associated with your period. You might have a dull ache in your lower uterus or in your back, like your period pain. Or you might feel a lump or something that's...
You might feel a lump like inside you when you're putting a tampon in or something.
Yeah, or it's more in your tummy. Like sometimes ovarian cancer, the masses can grow, and then you can feel like there's like a strange or bloating in your tummy, or just that you look, you just feel uncomfortable.
So many of those things that you say are just the normal workings of the female body, aren't they? But always err on the side. And what should you ask your doctor for? An ultrasound?
Well, they'll know. So basically
Right.
go to the doctor and describe your symptoms, and they'll say what the next step is. So yes, it could be an ultrasound, it could be a blood test, it could be a pap smear. It'll just depend on what obviously symptom you present with. But I guess the thing is, we don't want every 100 women running because I've got a little bit of, post-coital bleeding. But
Why
we
not?
do. You're right, that's what a doctor's for, isn't it?
I think so. Like
Yeah.
I've got a really good GP, and he says, look, tell me what you're paranoid about.
Exactly.
Like, and if it's like, well, I'm worried, what if it's ovarian cancer, or what if it's this? And there are tests that you can get done that you push. If you're not happy with the answer,
Exactly.
if you get it's probably fine, ask. Doctors aren't infallible.
No, and the biggest thing is that women just aren't asking. So the
Yeah.
statistics of women going in with with no malignant symptoms is the complete opposite. We need women. We'd prefer to have thousands of women getting checked and catching that one or two that has it than having those people that just aren't prepared. But as you and I are good on our pap smears, but about 40% of the Australian public women aren't up to date, and they're just not getting out there and having that. And I know it's uncomfortable and it's gross and whatever,
it's
but
no worse than getting your bikini line lasered or
Yeah, exactly.
getting your eyebrows waxed.
exactly.
Come
so
on, ladies.
yeah, and it's those women that are really at risk because, as we know, it's so easy to pick up and get rid of because it's a virus, and we can cut those cells away pretty quickly, and also with the new Gardasil vaccinations and things with our younger women. But it's our women that didn't have that vaccination that really need to make sure they're on top of it.
Mothers of daughters who have had Gardasil
Mm-hmm.
vaccination, do you still need pap smears after you've had the vaccination?
Absolutely, because that's for the DNA and the virus. So it's actually treating the 16, 18 and main viruses that cause the cervical cancer. But there obviously are a whole heap of other cancers that are very rare but do actually still present with malignant change. So, and plus, it's just, we recommend the change. It's about to change. So it's about to go to 5 yearly pap smears, which will be good.
From 2 yearly?
Skin prep, yes, it will change, but not yet, guys. That test hasn't come in yet. It'll come in hopefully in January.
Because it's
February
more
next year.
accurate.
It's looking for the actual virus prior to any cellular change, so it's going to catch it much earlier.
So it's a different test.
It's a different test, yeah. It's actually going to look for the DNA in the virus, so which is better. It's not, whereas at the moment we look for cellular change. So we look if there's something like the cell has morphed a little bit and it's obviously infected with the virus. But this is actually going to check for the particular strands that are associated with the HPV virus and the most likely ones that will change to precancerous lesions.
But until then, get a test and pressure a friend.
I agree. I love the pressure of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
friends,
your
mums. Thank you.
Mums,
mums.
daughters, sisters.
That's right.
Friends.
Yep. And we want our husbands and our boyfriends and brothers to sell their sisters and wives, because that's that's the biggest thing. If we can get more women getting that done, then we're going to change a real platform of disease in Australia.
Jana Pittman, thanks so much. It's been lovely to
pleasure.
meet you. That's it for No Filter this week. We'll be back in your ears next week with another episode. But until then, if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love my conversation with Olympic swimmer Liesl Jones, who had some similar and some different experiences being in the public eye as a young woman who also happened to be a world champion athlete. Subscribe to our podcast EDM so you can find out all about the best things to get in your ears every week by going to mamamia.com.au/subscribe. You can buy Jana's book, Just Another Hurdle, at apple.co/mamamia. You can find lots of other books there, including mine called Work-Strife Balance if you're needing a bit of that in your life. I'm Mia Friedman. You can find me everywhere at Mia Friedman, particularly on Instagram, which is my social media of choice. The producer of No Filter is Eliza Ratliff, and I will see you next week.